Behind the glittering lights of Hollywood, where red carpets shimmer and cameras never stop flashing, not every star feels free to live their truth. For Black lesbian actresses, the spotlight can be both a dream and a battlefield, forcing them to navigate not only racial prejudice, but also the harsh judgments surrounding their sexuality. In an industry where image is everything, telling the truth can feel like risking it all. For some, silence became survival. A carefully guarded private life. A love kept out of frame. A version of themselves the world was allowed to see. But not everyone is willing to live in the shadows forever. Some chose courage over comfort. They stepped forward, faced relentless scrutiny, weathered public backlash, fought private battles, protected secret relationships, and ultimately made the bold decision to stand in their truth, no matter the cost. Behind the silver screen lies a deeper story, one rarely told and even more rarely understood. And now, I'm about to share 17 powerful stories that uncover the hidden chapters of Black lesbian actresses, stories of resilience, identity, sacrifice, and strength that the spotlight never fully revealed. Nina Mae McKinney. Nina Mae McKinney. A radiant star with a love the world refused to let her keep. The first Black actress to gain international recognition in Hollywood, she stunned audiences as Chick in Hallelujah, 1929, breaking barriers in an industry ruled by racism and rigid expectations. She wasn't just a performer, she was a symbol of possibility in a time that offered very little to women who looked like her. But behind the spotlight lived a woman divided. By 1931, after the explosive success of Hallelujah, McKinney's name was everywhere. Fame came fast, and so did the cost. Whispers began to circulate about her romantic relationship with actress Pepe Lederer, a member of Hollywood's so-called sewing circle, a quiet network of queer women navigating love in secrecy. The tabloids fed on the rumors. The industry watched closely. And suddenly, Nina faced an impossible choice: protect her rising career or protect her truth. Under mounting pressure, especially from powerful studios like MGM, she was pushed into marrying jazz musician Jimmy Monroe in 1930. It was a marriage of appearance, not affection. A carefully staged illusion. Her life became a performance far more exhausting than any role she played on screen. Every real emotion had to be hidden. Every authentic connection buried. From the outside, she seemed to have everything: fame, beauty, success, a husband. But inside, something was breaking. The marriage collapsed after just 3 years, ending not in scandal, but in emptiness, like a script neither of them truly believed. The emotional toll of living a double life began to weigh heavily on her spirit. Slowly, the vibrant star who once dazzled Hollywood started to fade from its glare. In the mid-1930s, Nina sought refuge in Europe, performing in nightclubs and theaters, hoping distance might offer freedom. But even across the ocean, the loneliness followed her. The isolation of hiding her identity never fully loosened its grip. Opportunities dwindled. The spotlight dimmed. Her career, once blazing with promise, slipped quietly into obscurity. Nina Mae McKinney lived her later years withdrawn, carrying both her brilliance and her heartbreak in silence. Though her talent was undeniable, her life became a quiet tragedy, not of failure, but of sacrifice. Behind the glamour was a woman forced to choose survival over authenticity. She paid a price far greater than fame. On May 3, 1967, Nina Mae McKinney passed away, taking with her the secret loves she could never openly claim and the lifelong ache of never fully living as her true self. A star who burned bright, but was never allowed to shine freely. Lorraine Hansberry. Lorraine Hansberry. A brilliant mind with a spirit too fierce to be confined. One of the 20th century's most groundbreaking playwrights, Hansberry made history with her landmark drama, A Raisin in the Sun, a work that forever changed American theater. But behind her razor-sharp prose and revolutionary voice was a woman fighting battles far beyond the stage. She wasn't only confronting racism in a divided America, she was also wrestling with deeply personal truths she could not safely live out loud. In 1953, she married Robert Nemiroff, a white Jewish songwriter. To the public, it seemed like a partnership built on love and intellect. In reality, it also served as protection. a shield against a society that condemned same-sex relationships. Lorraine was involved in relationships with women and connected to New York's queer artistic circles, but in that era, authenticity came at a dangerous cost. The marriage became a facade, a compromise made to safeguard her career and survive under the harsh glare of a conservative world. Inside their home, the tension was more than marital strain. It was the quiet ache of living divided. Lorraine longed to love freely, to exist without secrecy. Yet every day demanded performance, not just on paper, but in life. She upheld the image of a devoted wife while carrying the emotional weight of a hidden identity. The internal conflict was relentless. A woman boldly demanding civil rights for Black Americans, yet denied the freedom to claim her own. By the early 1960s, her career soared. Her voice grew louder, her influence deeper. But success did not silence the storm within. When Nemiroff discovered letters she had written, confessions of longing, reflections on her sexuality, and dreams of a life unmonitored, the fragile foundation of their marriage cracked. The truth, once whispered in private pages, could no longer stay hidden. Judgment followed, even from those closest to her. Then came another devastating blow. In 1964, Lorraine was diagnosed with breast cancer. At just 34, she found herself battling not only a ruthless disease, but also the loneliness of partial acceptance. Some who admired her courage in public struggled to accept her truth in private. Still, she fought with the same intensity that defined her writing: unyielding, principled, brave. On January 12, 1965, Lorraine Hansberry passed away. She left this world young, with dreams still unfolding and truths not fully embraced. Yet her legacy towers above the silence that once surrounded her. Her words continue to challenge injustice, to demand dignity, to insist on freedom, both racial and personal. And A Raisin in the Sun remains more than a play. It is a testament to a woman who dared to imagine a better world, even when she herself was denied the chance to live in it fully. Storm DeLarverie, the Stonewall warrior history almost forgot. Long before pride parades filled the streets, before rainbow flags waved openly in the sky, Storm DeLarverie was already fighting. A legendary drag king, a magnetic performer, and a fearless activist, she became one of the boldest forces in the early LGBTQ+ movement during the 1950s and 1960s, a time when simply existing as yourself could cost you everything. In the 1950s, Storm rose to fame as the only male impersonator in the groundbreaking Jewel Box Revue, the first racially integrated drag show in America. She captivated audiences with sharp suits, smooth charm, and undeniable stage presence. But fame came with danger. In 1957, performing in men's clothing in New York, she was arrested for cross-dressing, an act considered criminal at the time. The press ridiculed her, branding her strange and turning her identity into spectacle. The scandal shattered contracts and dimmed the spotlight that once shone so brightly on her. To survive, Storm became a bouncer at lesbian bars in Greenwich Village, protecting others from the violence she knew too well. Then came 1969. At the Stonewall Inn, when police raided the bar and chaos erupted, witnesses say it was Storm, handcuffed, beaten, defiant, who fought back and shouted for the crowd to act. That moment ignited what became known as the Stonewall Riots, a turning point in the global fight for gay rights. Her courage sparked a revolution. Yet despite her bravery, Storm, a black woman in a movement often dominated by others, rarely received the recognition she deserved. Even within the community she helped defend, she was too often pushed to the margins. Her personal life carried its own heartbreak. Her decades-long love with her partner, Diana, faced rejection from Diana's family, leaving Storm to endure not only public discrimination but private sorrow. Love, too, came at a cost. When Storm DeLarverie passed away on May 24, 2014, her name was remembered, but not nearly enough. A pioneer, a protector, a revolutionary spirit. And yet, she spent her final years in quiet obscurity. Her story is not just a chapter in LGBTQ+ history. It is a reminder of how easily heroes, especially black queer heroes, can be erased. Storm DeLarverie deserved more than silence. She deserved the world she helped change. Wanda Sykes. Wanda Sykes. A comedy powerhouse caught in the eye of a very personal storm. Wanda Sykes, the razor-sharp comedian beloved for her work on Curb Your Enthusiasm and Blackish, has never been afraid to speak truth to power. But long before she stood confidently in her truth, she was fighting a silent battle behind the curtain of fame. In 2008, Sykes publicly came out as a lesbian. A bold, defining moment that would reshape her life forever. But the road to that freedom was anything but smooth. Years earlier, from 1991 to 1998, she had been married to music producer Dave Hall. On the outside, it looked like a picture-perfect life. Inside, she was wrestling with a truth she felt she couldn't reveal. In an industry where image is everything, she hid who she truly was, hoping to protect her career. To the world, she smiled. But privately, the weight of living a lie grew heavier every single day. You can't fake happiness forever, and she felt that cost deeply. Everything changed in 2008 at a same-sex marriage rally in Las Vegas. Standing before a crowd, Wanda Sykes did something incredibly brave. She came out publicly and revealed her relationship with Alex Niedbalski. In that moment, she tore down the mask she had worn for years. But freedom came with consequences. Some members of the conservative Black community, along with certain fans and colleagues, reacted with anger and rejection. The backlash was immediate. Harsh criticism flooded in. Threatening letters followed. What should have been a moment of liberation quickly turned into a security nightmare. Sykes had to increase protection, hire bodyguards, and live with the constant anxiety that her truth had made her a target. Yet the most painful blow didn't come from strangers. It came from home. Her mother, the woman she loved and respected so deeply, struggled to accept her daughter's truth. Family gatherings became tense. Words were said that cut deeper than any public headline ever could. For Wanda, this wasn't just about public opinion. It was about losing the comfort of unconditional love. Still, she refused to retreat. Wanda Sykes chose authenticity over approval. She kept building her career, sharpening her comedy, and living openly, even when it hurt. Her story isn't just about celebrity scandal or headlines. It reflects the quiet battles millions of LGBTQ+ people fight every day, choosing honesty over safety, identity over silence, truth over comfort. Her career continues to thrive. The laughter continues. But behind that laughter is a woman who paid a real price for living authentically, and who proves that sometimes the bravest punchline is simply telling the truth. Takaina Arnold. Takaina Arnold. A screen icon whose private truth exploded into public scandal. Best known for her unforgettable roles on Martin and Everybody Hates Chris, Arnold built a career that made audiences laugh for decades. But behind the spotlight was a woman carrying a secret that would one day shake her world. While her professional life soared, her personal life unraveled in ways few could imagine. From failed marriages to deeply buried truths, Arnold's journey became as dramatic as any role she ever played. She married boxer Laren Ronald in 1992, but the union collapsed just 3 years later, ending in heartbreak when the truth about her identity surfaced. Years later, she married basketball coach Rico Hines in 2012, hoping for stability. By 2016, that marriage had also crumbled, this time amid a shocking love triangle. Rumors swirled that both husband and wife had fallen for the same woman. Then came the scandal that set the internet on fire. A private, intimate video allegedly involving Arnold and another woman was leaked online. The footage spread rapidly, fueling speculation that it was revenge from her ex-husband after their divorce. Overnight, Arnold became the center of a media storm. Headlines turned ruthless. Social media erupted. She faced harsh criticism, invasive scrutiny, and relentless gossip that threatened to overshadow her decades of success. But the storm didn't break her. In 2019, Arnold made a life-changing decision. She came out as a lesbian. After years of living behind carefully constructed facades, she chose authenticity over fear. She admitted she had hidden her truth for too long, afraid of judgment, backlash, and the very prejudice she ultimately had to confront. The decision was liberating, but painful, especially within her own family. Reports revealed her mother strongly opposed her coming out, adding another layer of emotional struggle to an already difficult journey. Within parts of the conservative Black community, where conversations about sexuality can still be taboo, acceptance didn't come easily. Arnold endured criticism, whispers, and the quiet distancing that often follows public revelations. Her career weathered turbulence. Her personal life bore scars. Yet through it all, she refused to retreat. Tikaina Arnold's story is more than scandal. It's about survival. It's about the cost of hiding, and the even greater cost of finally telling the truth. She is not just a talented actress or a public figure caught in controversy. She is a woman who fought to live openly in a world that often punishes honesty. In the end, her journey isn't just about fame or headlines. It's about the universal struggle to be seen, accepted, and loved, not as a character, not as a rumor, but as your true self. Tessa Thompson. Tessa Thompson. A fearless talent. A bisexual star. A woman caught between public celebration and private truth. Best known for her powerful performance as Valkyrie in Thor, Ragnarok, Tessa Thompson didn't just command the screen, she commanded attention. But in 2018, during a headline-making interview with Wonderland magazine, the spotlight shifted. She opened up about being attracted to both men and women and acknowledged her connection to Janelle Monáe. What looked like a bold, effortless confession to the world was, in reality, the result of years of quiet reflection and internal struggle. Before speaking her truth publicly, Tessa lived like many in Hollywood, carefully guarding parts of herself in an industry that often demands labels, boxes, and clean narratives. When she addressed her relationship with Monáe, the conversation around her changed overnight. Suddenly, her once private world became public property. Yet Thompson resisted being boxed in. She pushed back against strict labels like lesbian or bisexual, choosing instead to define herself on her own terms. That choice, meant to protect her authenticity, ignited heated debates. Some critics, including voices within the queer community, accused her of being vague or capitalizing on ambiguity. Support quickly turned into scrutiny. The pressure intensified in 2019 when paparazzi photos showed Thompson sharing intimate moments with another woman. Rumors swirled. Headlines speculated about breakups. Her personal life became tabloid currency, dissected and debated in real time. As a Black and queer woman in Hollywood, Tessa wasn't just navigating fame, she was navigating layered expectations. She became a symbol of representation, but also a target for invasion. Every relationship questioned, every statement analyzed, every silence interpreted. And yet, through the noise, she kept working, kept building, kept delivering performances that reminded audiences why they admired her in the first place. What Tessa Thompson endured reveals something deeper about the entertainment industry. Visibility can be both empowering and isolating. For Black and queer artists especially, success often comes with a double burden, confronting racial bias while defending the legitimacy of their identities. Her refusal to be labeled wasn't confusion. It wasn't strategy. It was self-preservation. It was autonomy. In a world that demands definitions, she chose freedom, even when that freedom came with criticism, loneliness, and relentless scrutiny. Because sometimes, the price of living authentically isn't applause. It's endurance. Josephine Baker. A blazing force on the dance floor. A boundary-breaking Black superstar. A woman whose talent lit up Paris, while her heart lived in shadow. Josephine Baker became one of the first African-American performers to conquer the international stage, redefining beauty, fame, and freedom in the 1920s and beyond. She dazzled audiences with fearless performances and undeniable charisma. But behind the glittering costumes and roaring applause was a woman carrying secrets she could never safely share. At the height of her fame, Baker quietly navigated same-sex love in a world steeped in racism, conservatism, and rigid expectations. She experienced deep passion with women, including figures like Colette and Frida Josephine McDonald, yet these relationships had to remain hidden. In an era when both her race and her sexuality could destroy her career, silence became her shield. In 1937, she married French businessman Jean Lion, a union widely seen as protection rather than passion. To the world, she played the role of devoted wife. Behind closed doors, she wrestled with the exhaustion of living two lives at once. One for survival, one for truth. Then in 1941, whispers turned into headlines. French newspapers fueled rumors about her forbidden romances, threatening not just her reputation but her livelihood. The scandal forced her to step away from Paris, fearing scrutiny that could shatter everything she had built. Josephine Baker had conquered stages across continents, but she was never fully free in love. To keep her crown, she sacrificed authenticity. To remain a star, she dimmed parts of herself. When she passed away on April 12, 1975, the world remembered the icon, the performer, the revolutionary, the legend. But beneath the applause was a woman who carried untold love stories and quiet heartbreak to her final breath. Josephine Baker didn't just fight for fame. She fought to exist in a world that wasn't ready for all of who she was. Gladys Bentley was more than a blues singer. She was a revolution wrapped in a tuxedo and top hat. A blazing force of the 1920s and 30s, she electrified the Harlem Renaissance with a voice as bold as her presence. Performing as an openly masculine-presenting drag blues artist, she stunned audiences and commanded stages at hotspots like New York's Clam House, turning every performance into an act of fearless self-expression. In 1931, she defied the rules of a deeply prejudiced America by holding an unofficial wedding ceremony with a woman, publicly embracing her lesbian identity at a time when doing so could destroy everything. And for a while, she thrived anyway. Her star burned bright. But fame could not shield her from the storm that was coming. When the paranoia of the McCarthy era swept through the 1950s, targeting suspected homosexuals in ruthless witch hunts, Bentley's world began to close in. In 1952, she shocked fans with a sensational Ebony magazine article claiming she had been cured of her lesbianism through hormone treatments. Soon after, she publicly married a man named Charles Roberts. To many in the queer community, it felt like betrayal. The fearless icon who once embodied liberation now appeared to be surrendering to the very system that sought to erase her. But the truth was far more heartbreaking than scandal. The marriage was widely believed to be a facade, a desperate shield against a society that punished difference without mercy. Those who knew her understood that Bentley's love for women had not vanished. What vanished was her safety. Fear forced her to silence her truth. As the spotlight dimmed, so did her spirit. The woman who once owned the stage with swagger and fire drifted into isolation and obscurity. Her career faded. Her laughter quieted. The weight of self-denial became its own prison, one she carried until her death on January 18, 1960. Gladys Bentley's story is not just about music. It's about survival in a world that demanded conformity at any cost. It's about the unbearable price of pretending. Today, her voice still echoes through history, not only as a pioneer of blues and queer visibility, but as a haunting reminder of what happens when brilliance is forced to hide just to stay alive. Patina Miller, a powerhouse of Broadway whose voice can shake a theater to its core, found herself battling a storm far harsher than any role she had ever played. Celebrated for commanding performances in Pippin and on screen in Madam Secretary, Miller built a career defined by excellence, grace, and undeniable talent. But in 2018, her most courageous performance happened offstage. She came out as a lesbian, married Lauren Baston, and openly embraced the love she had once felt pressured to hide. Before that moment, she carried a quiet fear that revealing her truth could cost her everything. On Broadway, where Black performers already face crushing expectations to appear flawless and untouchable, any deviation from the perfect image can feel career-ending. In many deeply religious Black communities, same-sex relationships are still condemned, and public honesty can come at a devastating price. When Miller finally chose authenticity over fear, the backlash was swift and painful. Family members and longtime friends turned critical. People she trusted to stand beside her instead stood in opposition. Colleagues whispered. Social media filled with harsh judgment. Headlines questioned her choices rather than celebrating her courage. After years of pouring her soul into the industry, she suddenly felt isolated within it. But the pressure didn't stop there. When Patina and Lauren welcomed their daughter later that year, the scrutiny intensified. The criticism grew louder, more personal, more invasive. As both a mother and a public figure, Miller found herself fighting on two fronts, protecting her career while fiercely guarding her family from a world eager to judge what it didn't understand. Yet through every wave of condemnation, Patina Miller did not bend. She stood firm in her love. She refused to apologize for her truth. She chose authenticity over approval, even when it cost her comfort. And in doing so, she proved that the bravest role she would ever play was simply being herself, unapologetically, openly, and without fear. Ruby Dandridge. Ruby Dandridge, Hollywood's radiant matriarch with a love she was forced to hide. A celebrated radio and film actress, she dazzled audiences under bright stage lights. Yet behind the curtain she carried a secret that could have shattered everything. As the mother of Dorothy Dandridge and a quiet member of Hollywood's infamous sewing circle, Ruby kept her same-sex relationships locked away from a world that wasn't ready to understand. In 1940, that fragile balance was threatened. A newspaper exposed whispers of mysterious late-night gatherings at her home, subtly pointing to intimate connections with women in the queer community. Overnight, her private world trembled. Desperate to protect her career and reputation, Ruby publicly leaned into the image of her marriage to Cyril Dandridge, long after their divorce, using it as a shield against scandal. But that public performance hid a deeper truth. Her heart belonged to Geneva Williams, a gifted black musician with whom she shared a passionate and enduring love. Their bond was real, tender, and powerful, yet it had to survive in silence. Ruby's greatest tragedy wasn't simply secrecy. It was isolation. Her relationship with her daughter Dorothy grew strained, burdened by misunderstanding and quiet tension. Living in constant fear of exposure, Ruby endured the slow erosion of her spirit as Hollywood demanded perfection and punished authenticity. When she passed on October 17, 1987, Ruby Dandridge left behind more than a legacy of talent. She carried with her a lifetime of hidden love, unspoken truth, and a pain that never fully found the light. Lena Waithe. A groundbreaking queer star suddenly caught in the middle of a shocking divorce and relentless public backlash. Lena Waithe, the Emmy-winning writer and actress celebrated for Master of None and The Chi, has weathered more than her share of storms, both on screen and off. In 2018, she made headlines by proudly embracing her identity as a lesbian, becoming one of Hollywood's most visible black queer voices. A year later, in 2019, she quietly married entertainment executive Alana Mayo in an intimate courthouse ceremony in San Francisco, a moment that felt deeply personal and full of promise. But the fairy tale didn't last. Just 2 years later, their marriage ended and the split exploded across headlines. Rumors swirled. Allegations of infidelity surfaced, linking Waithe to another actress. Social media erupted overnight, fueling heated debates and sharp criticism. Some voices within the black community accused her of damaging the image of black queer women, a weighty charge that only intensified the scrutiny. As the backlash reached a fever pitch, Waithe took to Twitter, firmly denying the cheating claims and stating the divorce was a mutual decision. Still, doubt lingered in the public eye. Soon after, she began dating Cynthia Erivo, and once again, her personal life became tabloid fodder, dissected, debated, and endlessly gossiped about. Through it all, Lena Waithe has remained in the spotlight, not just as a creative force, but as a woman navigating fame, identity, love, and criticism under the harsh glare of Hollywood. Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe, the boundary-breaking artist whose love life has sparked as much conversation as her art. Celebrated for her powerful performances in Moonlight and Hidden Figures, Monáe didn't just captivate audiences with talent, she moved the culture with her truth. In a bold Rolling Stone interview, she opened up about identifying as pansexual, embracing her identity as a queer woman who loves without limits. She also spoke candidly about her deep connection with Tessa Thompson, sending fans and headlines into a frenzy. But when she publicly acknowledged her same-sex relationship in 2018, the reaction wasn't all applause. Parts of the conservative black community criticized her, accusing her of using her sexuality to promote her album Dirty Computer. Then in 2019, intimate photos with another woman surfaced online, igniting rumors of a breakup and fueling intense media scrutiny. Accusations of infidelity followed, and the spotlight grew harsher by the day. As speculation spiraled, the pressure became overwhelming. Monet ultimately stepped back from social media, choosing privacy over chaos, protecting her peace in a world determined to dissect her every move. Raven-Symoné. Raven-Symoné. A Disney darling caught in a storm of criticism and an identity battle played out in public. Raven-Symoné, the beloved star of That's So Raven and the Cheetah Girls, shocked the world when she came out as a lesbian in 2013. Famous for her wholesome, family-friendly image, she stunned longtime fans with a tweet celebrating same-sex marriage, leaving many conservative supporters in disbelief. The backlash was swift and brutal. Critics accused her of betraying the Disney image that had made her a household name. Headlines exploded, debates raged, and the media frenzy only intensified. But the turmoil didn't end there. In 2015, after her breakup with model Asmarie Livingston, the situation escalated when accusations of infidelity surfaced publicly. Tabloids circled. Comment sections turned vicious. The scrutiny became relentless. Yet through the noise and judgment, she refused to hide. Raven chose to live openly and unapologetically, ultimately finding peace and love when she married Miranda Piermann-Mayday in 2020. Still, her journey carries the quiet weight of isolation, the cost of becoming her true self in front of a world that once adored a different version of her. Cynthia Erivo. Cynthia Erivo, a powerhouse of talent, a voice that commands stages, and a woman brave enough to live her truth. Known for her unforgettable performances in Harriet and the Color Purple, Erivo publicly came out as a lesbian in 2019. But while her career soared, her personal revelation ignited a storm she never saw coming. The moment she opened up about her journey of self-discovery and her love for another woman, backlash came fast and fierce. Some fans, particularly from deeply religious communities in the UK, the US, and parts of the Nigerian diaspora, accused her of turning her back on tradition and cultural values. Social media became a battlefield. Harsh criticism flooded her pages, and suddenly, her identity overshadowed her artistry. When her relationship with Lena Waithe made headlines in 2021, the media frenzy intensified. Instead of celebrating two successful Black artists finding love, tabloids stirred controversy, reducing their relationship to sensationalized gossip. The narrative often felt more focused on shock value than respect. Through it all, Erivo stood firm. She defended her love openly and unapologetically. Yet behind her strength was a quieter truth, moments of loneliness, feelings of isolation, and the pain of being misunderstood by parts of her own community. Cynthia Erivo wasn't just fighting for a relationship. She was fighting for the right to be fully herself, as an artist, as a Black woman, and as someone deserving of love without apology. Samira Wiley. A powerful screen presence whose private truth was dragged into the spotlight before she was ready. The star of Orange is the New Black and The Handmaid's Tale, Samira Wiley was building a career defined by depth, talent, and undeniable charisma. But in 2014, everything changed. During an interview, a crew member casually and carelessly revealed that Wiley was a lesbian, forcing her out publicly without her consent. In an industry that has long been unforgiving toward Black queer actors, the fallout was immediate and terrifying. She wasn't just facing headlines, she was facing the possible loss of roles, opportunities, and the future she had worked so hard to build. And the pressure didn't stop there. When Wiley married writer Lauren Morelli in 2017, what should have been a celebration of love became a lightning rod for controversy. While many applauded her courage and authenticity, others, including voices within the Black community, harshly criticized her relationship, calling it unnatural and even labeling it a betrayal. The backlash was relentless, and the emotional weight was heavy as she fought to protect both her career and her right to live openly and honestly. But Samira Wiley refused to be defined by fear or prejudice. She chose resilience over silence. In 2021, she welcomed her first daughter with her wife, embracing motherhood and authenticity on her own terms. Today, she stands not just as an award-winning actress, but as a symbol of strength, proof that living your truth, even under fire, is its own kind of victory. Javicia Leslie. Javicia Leslie, a groundbreaking superhero whose real life sparked as much controversy as her role on screen. Best known for playing Ryan Wilder on Batwoman from 2020 to 2022, Leslie made headlines again in 2021 when she publicly came out as bisexual. In an interview with Health magazine, she opened up about embracing her truth, sharing how loving women empowered her and how queer icons like Sarah Paulson inspired her journey of self-acceptance. But the reaction wasn't all applause. Almost immediately, Leslie became the target of fierce backlash, especially from conservative Batwoman fans. Some critics claimed that being the first Black woman to lead the series, combined with her queer identity, was too political. What should have been a milestone moment quickly turned into a lightning rod for outrage. And the storm didn't stop there. In 2022, paparazzi photos captured her sharing an intimate moment with a woman, and the media frenzy exploded. Social platforms flooded with cruel commentary, invasive speculation, and relentless judgment. The pressure grew so intense that Leslie temporarily locked her social media accounts just to protect her peace. But this was never just about one actress. Javicia Leslie's story became something bigger, a powerful, ongoing fight for visibility and representation. As a Black, queer woman leading a superhero franchise, she stood at the intersection of identities that Hollywood has historically marginalized. In an industry still wrestling with bias and discrimination, her presence wasn't just symbolic, it was revolutionary. Amandla Stenberg, the breakout star of The Hunger Games and later a powerful voice in The Hate U Give, has never been afraid to stand in her truth. But living authentically hasn't come without a cost. In 2016, she publicly identified as bisexual in a candid interview, opening the door to a deeper conversation about identity. Less than 2 years later, she shared that she is lesbian and non-binary, a revelation that ignited intense public debate. What should have been a moment of self-liberation quickly became a battleground of opinions. The backlash grew even more complicated when criticism surfaced from within parts of the Black community. In 2019, while starring in projects that explored the intersections of race and gender, some accused her of prioritizing LGBTQ+ advocacy over Black cultural identity. It was a painful accusation, one that cut deeper because it came from her own community. But she didn't stay silent. On Instagram, Stenberg spoke openly about the pressure, the hurt, and the impossible expectations placed on her. Her journey has never been simple. Navigating the world as both Black and lesbian in a society that often demands labels, loyalty, and perfection is a weight few truly understand. Her struggle isn't just about fame or controversy, it's about the quiet loneliness of trying to honor every part of yourself while knowing you may never satisfy everyone else. The stories of Black lesbian actresses like hers aren't just about love or headlines. They're about courage, the fight to live unapologetically in the face of prejudice, misunderstanding, and division. They deserve recognition. They deserve respect. What do you think? Do you support their bold journey toward authenticity? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next story. Because behind Hollywood's glittering spotlight, there are truths far more powerful than the glamour.